is 4 years or older. But I guess I'm sorry, I just don't remember the part. My concern was that, you know, oftentimes when you have a brand new BMW, the insurance companies just total them out because it's just easier to buy the people a new car than it is to go through the hassle of fixing it up. And I guess maybe I was surprised to see that that had to be on their title.
Okay, but this, that which had to be on their title?
Well, no, 117, it's not in 117. I was looking at the bold print here that Claudia gave out for information.
Okay, but so what we would be doing in 117 then, if we were to look at what we talked about doing, was on language that's deleted, right? And then deleting sub 3. Well, no, on the bill itself, it's 3.
Oh, it's 3 in the bill itself. Well, again, which one are we going to?
Well, I guess this is a theoretical thing right here, and we're doing, although it's, I don't want to say that, it's real too, but what we're really dealing with in this particular bill is the bill itself as printed, right? And then when we, if it goes on to the full committee, then we'll, and it goes through in the recommendation that looks like we're headed for, then legislative council is going to come back with those amendments plus conflict amendments that will wind up looking like what Claudia is showing you in the theoretical piece. If somebody else wants to try doing this today, that's fine with me. Okay. So does the committee then want to, let me ask another question, is there some other reference someplace to what is on the printed bill 117, sub 1, I mean section 1, sub 3? Okay, well then does the committee want to recommend that legislative council, to the full committee, that amendments be drafted to, on line 7, delete after the word person, additionally the word is? Claudia?
I might want to have when you all look at the language on lines 12, 13, 14,
Well, before we
15.
get to that.
Yeah. Because that specifically talks about the registered owner. Take out the new language with registered owner, I don't.
Oops.
Well, no, I think you would
A
still.
registered
No.
owner is still a registered owner.
This is a different circumstance. If he elects to keep the vehicle,
Yes,
we
right.
still must surrender it.
Yeah, okay, so we still are looking at what I described, line 7, taking out, in addition to the already deleted language in the printed bill, the word is just after person. And then also on line 8, the bold language described in this section, and the comma. And also on page 2, lines 1 through 5, and sort of, I guess, do that in concept, making sure that legislative council takes care of whatever needs to be taken care of. Is there any objection to that recommendation? So ordered. Shall we recommend that the committee pass it as amended?
I would so move.
Okay. Is there any objection to that? So ordered. What's next? Nothing is behaving.
And also get another horror story on this one too.
You got another horror story? Okay, where are we going next, Molly?
Let's see, I believe the next, still don't have any front of me. The next bill is
Thank you, Dave. You might ought to have just stayed
Senate Bill
there,
124.
because I think you just have to run right back up.
Oh.
Oh, no, you don't.
Madam Chair, 124 is next on the agenda. The people who are interested in this bill were unable to meet the last week to come to any conclusions, so
Oh, they don't have time to go over all of their amendments, so we're going to have to put it
carried
on
over.
for next week, which we are hoping is the last time this subcommittee has to meet.
I was hopeful.
Promises.
You said that last week.
You said that right out loud.
You must
Very
discuss
short.
it with Frank Bonner.
Oh.
There was another bill, you remember the little banking bill that kept me busy?
I do.
You carried it on the floor. Okay.
Madam
Skip,
Chair, before we put
Mr.
this
Parker.
over for another meeting, just out of curiosity, did ask about this bill.
and Senate Bill 124. I don't think anybody has had time to talk about any of it,
Okay.
okay? But, if we're gonna do something about it, it's gotta happen by next week, because you have to, the House Committee has to have your time to work on all of those bills there. Okay? Next is
Next.
126, 126. Okay. Joanne.
Would you like me to briefly go through?
Yeah, go ahead, Claudia.
Senate Bill 126 makes changes in laws relating to reconstructed and assembled vehicles. And before I even start, there's another bill that's up following this, and Senate Bill 126 can be combined with Senate Bill 127, so you might keep that in mind. Senate Bill
Okay.
127 has greater substantive change, and if the committee goes along with that, then 126 can easily merged into that. I think rather than go through my measure analysis, I'll let Joanne's testimony explain it in a little more detail.
Okay, Joanne.
Madam Chair, for the record, Joanne Peterson representing the Motor Vehicles Division. Senate Bill 126 makes several changes to law, all of which are consistent with current practices. Current law requires title or registration documents from other states to be surrendered before an Oregon title is issued. The law also makes provisions for inspection of vehicles which may be located in another state or country. Changes to sections 1 sub 5 on page 1 and section 2 sub 2b on page 2 delete references to the terms state and country and insert jurisdiction instead. These are consistent with other similar changes which have been made since vehicles do come from other countries as well as from other states. When a vehicle previously registered in another state is titled in Oregon, the vehicle must be inspected for the vehicle identification number. The law also requires the division check the foreign registration plates turned in to verify that the plates were issued for the vehicle. Both the VIN and plate number are then to be checked against records maintained by the National Crime Information Center. The purpose of both checks is to determine whether the vehicle is stolen. The division does inspect the VIN and checks the number against NCIC records. The division also checks registration plates surrendered to our offices against title and registration documents which the applicant presents. We cannot, however, always determine from this plate check whether the plates surrendered actually were issued for the vehicle, and there is no system in place to verify this plate information with other states or to check the plate against the National Crime Information Center records. Changes in section 2, sub 2, A and D delete requirements for the out-of-state license plate check, but retains requirements for inspection and NCIC checks on the vehicle itself. As we pointed out to the interim committee, this is by far the more effective way to check for stolen vehicles. Sometimes vehicles which are required to have a VIN inspection are physically located outside of Oregon. House Bill 2031 makes provisions for out-of-state inspections but uses the term motor vehicle. Other changes proposed in section 2 sub 2b of this bill would extend these provisions to all vehicles such as trailers. Changes to section 1 sub b on page 1, 2 sub 4 on page 2, and 3 sub 5 on page 3 of this bill reinstate requirements that assembled and reconstructed vehicles have VIN inspections. This is current law, which was inadvertently omitted in Chapter 338. Changes in Section 3.7 insert language requiring the surrender of any form of registration or title as part of the application for registration. This area of law was also amended by the 1983 legislature, thus Chapter 16 of Oregon Laws 1985 also contained changes in this area. This concludes my testimony in this bill.
Are there questions for Joanne? Is there discussion about this bill?
Well, I'd like to amend it, Mr. Chair.
Representative Harper and then Senator Simmons. Go ahead.
The statement here says that House Bill 2031 makes provisions for out-of-state inspections. What are those? How do you do it?
Madam Chair, Representative Harper, when a vehicle is going to be registered in Oregon and requires a vehicle inspection of the identification number, but say it's owned by a serviceman or someone who may be stationed in another state, we accept inspections of the vehicle for the identification number made by the out-of-state DMV officials or law enforcement officials who do cooperate and provide those inspection information to us.
Thank you.
Okay. Senator Simmons.
Well, I was simply going to ask for an amendment which would exempt one particular 1980 Freightliner from this VIN inspection for an out-of-state vehicle. I guess I won't.
Okay.
Mr. Seeley gave me a list of things that were needed for a particular title transferred in today. When I brought them all in, he said, "Oh yes, by the way, a VIN inspection."
Okay.
So I do one way to handle it, I guess. But
Okay, are there any objections to this bill, the way it is? Well, why don't we hang on just a minute and see what 127 looks like, since we've got a recommendation from our staff that we might want to put them together into one bill, or put 126 into 127. Is that what you're telling me?
Madam Chair.
Claudia.
Senate Bill 127, also at the introduction of the interim committee, mainly addresses an issue relating to assembled and reconstructed vehicles and adds a new definition of replica. And I think probably Joanne can go into more detail as to why they requested that. In your bill books, behind the bill, you should have some amendments that DMV has already given to the committee, and there should also be a letter there from someone who is unable to be here tonight. I might add that Rich Keister is also not here tonight, but a Mr. Ramsdell brought some problems in this bill to the attention of the committee, and he's also been in touch with Joanne, or someone from this company has been in touch with Joanne, which is why there are amendments.
Okay.
And I think Joanne will go through that.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's go over what this one does before we get to the other parts. Joanne, wow. Oh, it's not okay. It's examples and pictures. Okay, go ahead.
Again, for the record, Joanne Peterson of the Motor Vehicles Division. There are a number of vehicles that are now available which are built to resemble previously manufactured vehicles. In some cases, these vehicles will fall under provisions currently in law for assembled or reconstructed vehicles, but in other cases, they will not. They are sometimes built from new parts. They are often not sold or built by manufacturers and may not have a designated year, model, make, or vehicle identification number. The division registers these vehicles using the year, model, and make that the vehicle looks like, and on our records and on the title, we indicate that the vehicle is not authentic by indicating the word replica. The term replica is defined in Section 2 of Senate Bill 127, And changes in section 3 through 6 and 8 through 11 make legal provisions for replicas under Oregon law. These provisions are consistent with current practices. Section 12 of the bill also deals with the replica, and it covers in particular mud flaps. In this particular area of law, the current law already references the term replica, and the changes in this particular section just refer to those vehicles that are titled as replicas under these new provisions. Sections 3, 7, and 13 of the bill change laws dealing with assembled and reconstructed vehicles. Current law requires applicants for title on vehicles which come under these classifications to provide bills of sale for all component parts. The term component part under current law is defined to mean the transmission, engine, or other severable portion of a vehicle which possesses or did possess an identification number. The parts of a vehicle which have a number vary depending on such things as the make and year model. Older model vehicles have numbers on few, if any, parts. Some new vehicles have numbers on almost every conceivable part, including such things as bumpers. It is almost impossible to tell persons what parts bills of sale are required for using the above criteria. The division has historically required bills of sale for the major parts. On a passenger car, for example, this would include a bill of sale for the unibody or frame and for the engine. Changes in section 7 on pages 4 and 5 and section 13 on page 7 eliminate the requirements for bills of sale to be submitted on all component parts and provide for bills of sale to be submitted only on the major parts. Section 3 of the bill makes other changes concerning component parts. Under current law, the term component part is also a determining factor as to whether a vehicle is designated as an assembled vehicle or as a reconstructed vehicle. Both terms designate vehicles which are not as originally manufactured. Division records for assembled vehicles reflect the make as assembled and the year as the year in which the work was completed. Records for reconstructed vehicles reflect the actual year, model, and make of the vehicle, and also that the vehicle has been reconstructed. In either case, consumers have information available to them to indicate that the vehicle is not as originally manufactured. Except for historic vehicles, information indicating a vehicle is assembled or reconstructed is also printed on the title. Designation of a vehicle as reconstructed, where the actual year and make of vehicle are used, is more descriptive for law enforcement and others who may need to locate a vehicle on division records or physically locate a vehicle from information on our files. Under current law, the determining factor as to whether a vehicle is registered using the make as assembled or using the actual make and year and the word reconstructed is whether the use of component parts is consistent with the manufacturer's use of said parts. In many cases, neither the applicants nor the division can determine whether the use of component parts in a given vehicle is consistent with the manufacturer's use of said parts. This, again, is due to a number of factors, including such things as the many different types of vehicles manufactured in this country and in other countries, the fact that manufacturers are not always consistent in the use of parts, that parts are often manufactured for use over a series of years, not just for a particular year, model, or make of vehicle. Also, in many cases, the applicant is not the person who rebuilt the vehicle and may have no knowledge of the various parts used. In practice, the division distinguishes between assembled and reconstructed vehicles based on the applicant's certification as to what the vehicle looks like rather than the parts used. Changes in Section 3 would make the law consistent with these practices. As previously mentioned, in either case, the record and title do reflect that the vehicle isn't as originally manufactured. Changes in Section 5E on page 2 of the bill correct an oversight in Chapter 338 Oregon laws and are consistent with changes already made in Chapter 16 Oregon laws 1985. As Claudia mentioned, we have received an inquiry from a dealer concerning the lack of distinction between replicas and reconstructed, and also a problem on the classification of trucks rebuilt from kits. We have submitted amendments to your committee administrator concerning these proposed changes and have attached information to our testimony concerning replicas and also on the kitted trucks.
Question?
Madam Chair,
Senator Simmons.
Joanne, was the truck dealer you referred to, was that Roberts Motors?
Yes, it was, Senator Simmons.
Okay. So your amendments are in response. Wait a minute. On page, so you would on page 1, line 21.
Madam Chair, basically what that is intended, they were looking at replica, saying a replica resembles, and looking at reconstructed, and a reconstructed resembles, and wondering if there might be some difference wherein reconstructed vehicle, the body is essentially that original vehicle, where a replica may have been built brand new but it resemble a 1929 Ford, for example.
A vehicle is not at all a truck? Pardon? I guess I don't understand your amendments.
Madam Chair, are you referring to the second one on the truck? Or the...
Wait a minute. The second, do I have two sets of amendments?
Madam Chair, on the first, on page 1 on line 21, the first
Right.
change that we're proposing
Yeah, okay.
is to delete the word resembling and insert instead which resembles and is essentially part of. The purpose of that is to distinguish between a replica and a reconstructed vehicle.
Okay.
In the same line, we're making an additional change to deal with the issue raised about trucks that were rebuilt from kits.
What? Okay.
We currently register trucks that are rebuilt from kits as reconstructed vehicles, which would be consistent with this change. This basically is intended to clarify that when a truck is rebuilt from a kit, where the manufacturer assigns the identification number and provides a statement of origin, that it is in fact a reconstructed vehicle.
I guess my question is, okay, so a motor vehicle is different than a motor truck, you're saying, in these sections that we're talking about? A vehicle. Do you understand what I'm asking?
Madam Chair, what we were trying to do here is create basically that a reconstructed vehicle is either a, perhaps legislative council could write these more
okay.
clearly, but that a vehicle resembling and essentially is part of that of another vehicle, or B, is a truck rebuilt from kit.
You understand what, okay, so, as long as Claudia knows what it is that you're trying to get at, I guess it doesn't matter if I'm confused. So,
Well,
Senator Simmons?
well, Claudia spoke first, but I think I know what they're driving at. I've had experience with trucks at this time, and generally a heavy truck is a combination
Yeah,
of several
right,
things
right,
anyway.
right.
The man that
It's
goes
the
in to
tractor.
buy it orders a Cummins or an Allison or a Caterpillar engine, and he orders a particular transmission and a particular differential and a particular set of suspensions, so that whatever he orders is what he gets. And I think the objection to the glider kit being called a new car, a new truck, is that if a fairly recent truck or one with a new engine, and truck engines last sometimes a couple of years and then are completely replaced. But if this truck is, the frame, the body is beat up, the cab and the frame, then he can buy this glider and use his old rear axles and transmission and engine even, and put it together for a lot less money. But it may not have the same care in putting it together, or the parts may not fit each other as well as they would had the manufacturer assembled it. And that's why it shouldn't be called a new 1985 model Kenworth or whatever, but would be a reconstructed vehicle of that age. Is that what, in essence, what your amendment does?
Madam Chair, Senator Simmons, it is called a reconstructed, but we do use the year, model, and make that is on the MSO or the manufacturer's certificate of origin for the glider kit.
For the kit?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that is what Roberts Motors was asking for. And it seems to me to have a bit of logic to it, because it isn't actually a new truck, even though the cab of it is. But in a truck, a large truck, the cab is the incidental part of the truck itself.
Okay, so does the committee have any objection to having those amendments drafted in legislative council form? So ordered. Now, Senate Bill 127 amends the same three statutes sections that Senate Bill 126 amends. Or inside of it, it contains, Senate Bill 126 amends sections 178, section 200, and section 210 of the Motor Vehicle Code, and Senate Bill 127 amends some other ones, but also includes 178, 200, and 210. Claudia, that's why you would recommend that we combine 126 into 127. Is that okay with the committee?
Well, I have a question.
Yes, Senator
Which
Clark.
version of the changes to section 178 should we use then? Because 127...
Both?
Okay.
They address two slightly different problems, and you probably want to do both.
Okay, that's the answer. I didn't know we were trying to pick one or the other.
No, I think if you want to take care of both different problems, you have to do both
All right.
different things.
That's good.
Okay, so is there any objection if we recommend that we get legislative council, they're going to have fun with this one, into 126 into 127? Okay. And I assume that would be on to the full committee then with the due pass as substantially amended. And that gives us one less bill to have further hearings and work sessions all through the process. Okay, so that takes care of 126 and 127, and then we have 135 and 211, and we still don't have people on 635. Well, all right, let's just go on to 135. Dave Brenneman. Okay. There's a staff measure analysis behind your bill book. Okay. Claudia, Dave, who wants to start first? Let Dave do it. Dave, you do it.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, again for the record, Dave Brenneman with Motor Vehicles Division. Senate Bill 135 incorporates 5 concepts that were discussed before the Joint Interim Committee on the Motor Vehicle Code Revision in November last year. 2 minor housekeeping changes also have been included in the bill. The bill clarifies ambiguous sections of the law, corrects discrepancies between statutory language and long-standing practice, and broadens the scope of the law to cover new forms of business that have evolved over time. Section 1 of the bill removes language that would exempt a person from the dealer licensing requirements unless the vehicles being sold are, quote, in the person's possession for sale or trade, end quote. This language exempts most brokers, certain auctions, and many mobile home consignment dealers from the licensing and bonding laws because they almost never have the vehicles they sell in their possession. This change would bring these dealers within the scope of the law. Section 3 makes language changes to require applicants to sign the application for a dealer's license before the division must accept it. Current law only requires that the